So per usual, Henry and I watched the movie. Incident in a Ghostland. This movie was fucking weird, man. Really good. Movie opens up. Mom and two daughters are moving into. They're going to move into a new house. It's not new, but it looks like their aunt's house, and she died. And on their way to this house, this huge ice cream candy truck pulls up behind them while they're in the car, and they're like honking the horn and getting all weird behind them. You almost think like the van's gonna run into them, but it doesn't. It pulls up next side of them, and like the mom and the two daughters are like waving to it, like all weird. But the girl in the back seat, Vera, gives them the finger, and truck takes off. Doesn't take off. Gets back behind them. So they end up getting to the house. And not too long after roaming around this filthy, disgusting house, the candy truck pulls up into the van, into the driveway, the candy van, whatever. It's like an ice cream / candy van. And it pulls up into the driveway, and this big ogre motherfucker gets out and comes to the house and tackles the mother, knocks her out, and then goes after the two daughters. But before he even knocks the mother out, he's like sniffing this doll. He like sniffs the crotch of it. It's fucking weird. And then he knocks the mother out, and then drags the two girls down to the basement by their hair. Mom eventually wakes up, and there's like this taller woman. You think it's a woman, and mother wakes up and starts attacking this quote-unquote woman. Stabs her with like a broken bottle. The lady stabs her with a broken bottle, and they're fighting all the while. I'm so bad with names. The main character is waiting. She's like watching her mom get beat up on the steps. And then it kind of cuts. Like you think it looks like the mom beat this woman, but you find out. So anyway, it looks like the mom beat the woman, and then it cuts to a later date, like in the future, and this girl that watched her mom beat up this other girl. She like writes poems and books and stuff, and like in this, shooting into the future, she becomes like a famous best-selling horror writer, kind of like Stephen King, but the female version. And so she's going through life as the bestseller of all these horror books, and the most recent book that she wrote is almost an autobiography, in which she called "Incident in a Ghostland." And she's going through life, things are great, and she ends up having to go back to her mom's house because her sister is still traumatized by this, and lives with her mom, and she beats the crap out of herself. Like, she looks like she's constantly beat up, and that's because she's beating the crap out of herself, according to like this futuristic world that they're in. And it eventually happens where the girl, the main character, I can't think of her name. I should have wrote it down before I started. But the main character, she goes to like check on her sister because she hears all of this banging and stuff down in the basement where her mom keeps her because she can't control her in any other way. And you hear a male voice say, "We broke your sister, and now we're gonna break you." And that's like when it clicks, and all of a sudden, both girls are in the basement, all beat to hell. And I guess she was in her own world for so long, before she like snapped back into her own world. Her mom said, "I know what your sister wants from you, don't listen to her." So she snaps back into her own world. She's in the basement with her sister, and I guess she came out of this trance, and the tall woman, comes down and gets her now that she's awake. No, the ogre comes down and gets her now that she's awake, and drags her upstairs. Her sister's like, don't move, don't say anything. If you don't move or say anything, he'd hurt you less. So he drags her upstairs by her leg. It's the taller woman that does that. Drags her upstairs by her leg, and then dresses her up in this weird doll makeup, and poses her to sit with all these dolls, like those creepy old dolls. They're like glass, like porcelain dolls, fucking creepy. So she is staged with all these dolls, and then the ogre comes in, and he picks up one of the dolls next to her and starts like sniffing its crotch and like fake fingering it, and It says, the doll has like an automation that says, I love you, you are so beautiful, I love you, thank you. And he like freaks out and takes, the ogre freaks out and takes like a blowtorch and sets the doll on fire. And all the while, this girl's watching this happen. And then the ogre comes over and picks her up, and she's trying to not move. Before the ogre gets in there, she takes like this pin out of one of the dolls and sticks it in her hair. So then the ogre plays with the doll, burns it, and now he's picking her up. And she's trying like hell not to move because she was told not to. And the ogre starts like trying to finger her, and she moves, and then he like punches her, and then she stops moving, and eventually gets a chance to take this thing out of her hair and jab him in the shoulder. To which he freaks out and starts smashing everything in the room. Oh, she pees herself. He like hangs her up by her legs. He's sniffing her crotch, and she starts to pee herself, and he like loves it. It's disgusting. Yeah, that's my head, buddy. And so some violence ensues. She gets beat up by the ogre, and then the woman lady, that's actually a guy dressed up as a woman, comes upstairs. This girl ends up knocking the big ogre out with a typewriter, an old school typewriter. And then she eventually gets to her sister, and they end up escaping and getting down to like a major highway. And they happen to run into two officers as they're escaping to the highway, like the officers see them, and they back up, they're getting their story, or they're calling stuff in, and all of a sudden, the male cop comes out of the cruiser from the highway, and he gets shot twice. And then look behind the girls with the camera angle, and you see the woman man standing there, and he then shoots the female officer that's down talking to the girls, on her knees, and the gore is pretty good with that. He shoots her twice in the chest and walks up. You get a close shot of him blowing her brains out. And then the girls get dragged back in the candy van all the way back to the house. And at this point, the girls... So, like, the main character, she's, like, in this trance going back to her, like, perfect little world with her mom, and things are beautiful. She's getting all kinds of awards for her new book, and things are amazing. And she starts talking to her mom, and her mom's like, oh, your world is so beautiful. And, in this girl's head, she's like, I realize that this isn't real. And she's like, and then her sister in like this beautiful setting, starts pounding on this random door. You can see her sister screaming through this door, like pounding on it, like trying to get out. And she's like, Mom, I have to go back to my world. And her mom's like, oh, you sure you want to do that? Vera's world is so ugly. She's like, but she's my sister. So she ends up going back. She like snaps out of this, and she's getting molested by the ogre. And she ends up getting away from him. She smashes him in with a typewriter, gets away from him, bursts into the other room where the female man is doing something to the girl. I think he's raping her. Vera, that's the only name I remember because she's like constantly being screamed at as Vera. And this girl jumps on him, the main character, Vera's sister, the one that I've been talking about the whole time, in the perfect little world, jumps on his back and bites his shoulder, and like this big chunk of skin comes off, and he throws her, and then she gets on his back again, she like bites his shoulder, and then he throws her off, and he's like coming to kill her, and she bites his arm, and then as he's like freaking out, like he's ready to like kill her and punch her in the face and kill her, he gets shot in the back twice by the ogre gets shot first because he's trying to do something to the other girl, and the female man turns around, and the officer's like, don't move, and he's like, I'm telling you, don't move, and she makes a movement like she's gonna go after him and shoots her twice in the stomach. Girls get rescued, not rescued, well, they did get rescued, but now they're going into an ambulance, and they had a tumultuous relationship before all this happened, and you see them mouth the words, I love you, to one another, and yeah, that's that. He makes things hard to watch, but it was really good. Well done. There are times where you can't tell that the dream world is the dream world until she snaps out of it. Like the first time she snaps out of it, you're kind of like, what is the dream world like her being still beat up by these two? Because her mom in there, their original encounter with them, you think their mom killed them both. in her mom rage. So like when you see her in a beautiful, like perfect world, writing books like she always wanted to do, you can't tell that that's the dream. And then when they cut back to the reality of them still being trapped by these two monsters, you're confused. And then it eventually clicks, and they start going back and forth between the two different worlds. Pretty cool. I don't recognize any actors in it. This was a 2017 movie based off what's on the disc. I liked it. I think this is one that you would want to watch if you can in the dark. You know, probably with your significant other, so you can feel the stresses with someone who doesn't just scream at you because they didn't nap today. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I thought it was pretty good. Good enough where I was into it, man. I was really into it, right, Henry? You weren't. You were trying to make my life a living hell, and you did a really good job at it, didn't you? You say bye to the cellar dwellers? Say bye, cellar dwellers. Goodbye.